On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, OU stuff. We talked the resignation of Cale Gundy and the National College Football Roundup. We discussed the USA Today coaches poll, the Big Ten's new media rights deal, and the unfortunate news about Sam Hartman. And then we finish up giving you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man, Michael Hosty, will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, August 10th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming, promotions, and entertainment options in the month of August, visit riverwind.com. Go gamble at Riverwind, people. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now, recording this Wednesday morning, please leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment. Ted, normally we come on here, we try to have as much fun as possible. We try to be as entertaining as possible. But with what's gone on over these last couple of days, this one, just putting the rundown together for this one felt a little different.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit heavier than we typically want when it comes to the overall feeling of the podcast. But you know what? When these things come along, you got to talk about them, and that's what we're going to do.
That's what we're going to do. So let's do it. So I think it's important to acknowledge, before we really dive into this conversation, that you and I have both known Cale Gundy for a really long time, and he's our friend. So this is clearly personal for us. Not only did we play for him, but we've had a relationship with him afterwards, with our role with OU football since we got done playing. And so that makes this very tough for the both of us. I also think it is important to acknowledge that you're a 40-year-old white guy, I'm a 31-year-old white guy, and we don't have experience with how that word affects Black people emotionally, mentally, when a white person says it in front of them. So I think both of those, just up front, it's important to acknowledge both of those things. But man, this whole situation sucks. We can go through all of it, and we will, but this whole thing sucks, man.
Yeah, there's in the Coach Stoops came on my radio show yesterday, and he's always awesome to have on whenever stuff like this comes around, because just you get a different perspective, and he just kind of levels everything out whenever everyone's emotional. He's like the voice you kind of need to hear. And I thought one of the things that he mentioned is absolutely right. It's a terrible situation. There is no good side of it. So like, that's one thing as a fan base and as people that support the program, we got to do is stop picking sides. Because it's not a this side or that side type of situation. There is no good side. The whole situation is bad. So we just gotta absorb it and, unfortunately, gear up to move on.
Right. By now, everyone knows what happened, but it's important to go through what went down. So I believe Friday is when this happened, and in a film session, a player wasn't locked in. By the way, there seems to be a small faction of people that really want to know what player it is, please stop trying to find that information out. What good? Ask yourself, what good would come from fans knowing what player it was? What if you care about these young men? And I understand a lot of people care about Cale Gundy. I understand that, but nothing good comes from people exposing what player it was. Unless you feel differently. I don't understand people that are trying to do that. Why
No,
they're trying to do it.
here's the other thing. Well, whenever something like this happens, you want to be able to just like find the origin of the whole thing, right? And try and lay the blame there. But here's the thing. This is another great thing that Coach Stoops said yesterday. Whoever the player is, not the first player to not be paying attention, lock in, and focused in meetings. Not the last player that's going to be not focused or not locked in meetings. It's just something that you come across. That is not the factor in this whole situation. It's not. So all that does is boil up emotions even more than they need to be, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You can't look at that and say that's the reason this whole thing went down. That happens every day in every meeting room, at every facility, at every level in the country whenever it comes to football. So you can't just take that situation and say this is why it all happened.
Right. So, player not locked in a meeting. Cale asks him a question about a route concept. Now, of course, you're supposed to have your notes pulled up. You're supposed to be paying attention. And player did not have his notes pulled up on his iPad like he's supposed to when they're going through this stuff. Couldn't answer the question Cale was asking him. Clearly, Cale was not a fan of that. Grabs the iPad, read from the screen, and said a word that you just cannot say twice, reading off the screen. Immediately realized he made a huge mistake. But Ted, from the players, the current players that I've talked to, it really seemed like they had worked through it as a team. I had very long team meeting about it. Guys, expressed their feelings. I was told that, some of the veteran players, some of the veteran black players on the team were able to talk to Gundy individually about their experiences with that word and how it has affected their lives. And I was told that these were really, really positive and constructive, productive conversations, and that the vast, vast majority of players wanted Cale Gundy to stay. But ultimately, he issues a resignation. Brent Venables accepts it on Sunday night, and it seems like this was just a guy that has dedicated his life to OU, realizing that this could be a distraction moving forward, and that the best thing for the program was for him to resign. And it just the entire thing is just so unfortunate.
It is. Well, whenever you hear that the vast, vast majority of the team was, felt like whatever the original situation, how it went down and how it was handled was good. But here's the thing, what is the vast majority, and how many is it okay to have not be all right with the situation? Right. I mean, if it's 5 players, if it's 2 players, if it's one colleague on the staff, if it's, that's the problem with this still. And that's only the surface of it. you also got to talk about like how it affects the view of the program, how it's used against the program. I it if you're out on the recruiting trail, how many houses can you not go in because like we know the history, we know what you've done, you're not welcome here. It's just that's the unfortunate reality of the situation. And I know there's a lot of people that are saying, "Hey, now hang on here. Look at the track record, right? Look at the situation. Does this really fit what went on here?" And unfortunately, it does because it has untold impact. You can't even put your finger on the impact that it has. So it's just tough. I hate that this happened for Cale, which, here's the thing. I don't think this changes his legacy here. I don't think this changes what people think about him, what his players think about him. I hope this doesn't affect how welcome he is to still be a part of the program, still be around. It's just one of those things that this is the consequence of this thing, and I hate it for Venables that this early on, like not even this early on, that ever you have to make a decision like this or deal with a situation like this. It's brutal. It's brutal on everyone involved. And I know it was not easy for everyone up there, and it was extremely emotional around that facility after this thing took place for a bunch of different reasons. Emotions all over the place. Guys feeling different ways about it, but it's just brutal. Hate it for everyone involved. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying, what that Coach Stoops talked about. There is no good side, so there's no point in trying to pick sides here.
Yeah, and I think that clearly, you feel for Cale, you feel for his family. Like the guy has dedicated his life to OU football, but I think it's important for people to not lose sight of being concerned about the players that went through this experience, right? I mean, you don't walk into the facility expecting to deal with that,
Yeah.
You just don't. So I understand. I understand people that feel for Cale. I am one of them. But you also got to remember there's a bunch of young black men that had to go through a couple of days of this. That couldn't have been easy. And those who have been around Cale Gundy knows what he's about. We know what he's about. He made a terrible mistake. He had to have better judgment in that moment. I mean, that's that bottom line. You have to have better judgment in that moment. I don't care how upset you are with a player not paying attention, but it was nice because let's be real. There was a really strong reaction from the fans, which is what I am guessing was the reason for BV putting out that second statement where
Right.
he said, he said multiple times. I'm going to be honest. I did not love the way that statement read. I did not like how that painted the situation. And I understand why BV had to do it because there was such backlash coming from the fan base. He had to make it clear, like, hey, this is something that had to happen. Like, Cale resigned for a reason because it was the right thing to do. I understand why that, but it caused this reaction. And it almost, and I know that Twitter's not the real world, but all these people saying, oh, there's more to this. Like Cale Gundy's just throwing this word around. Like that's everyone that knows the man knows that's not the case. If you're looking for any positive at all in this thing, which there's really not any positive, it was nice to see so many former players putting their thoughts out about Cale Gundy, right? Whether that's Adrian Peterson, Joe Mixon, Mark Clayton, among others. Like, a lot of people may not realize Joe Mixon makes the worst mistake of his life, right? As an 18-year-old kid. Who does he call in the middle of the night when he's freaking out and thinking he just ruined his entire life? He calls Cale Gundy, and Cale Gundy goes and gets it. Cale he coaches hard, man. There's times where, and you and I both experienced, like, there's times where he's not a fun guy to play for. He's so demanding, but he treats these guys like family. And out of all the coaches I've been around, especially, and it has partly to do with, him being the wide receivers or running backs coach, stuff like that. But when you talk to former Black players, like the guys I played with, Gundy's the one that keeps them in the loop, man. He's the one that keeps that connection with the former players. And that's another reason why I think you saw so many guys voicing their support for him. But I know that there's a lot to unpack with this whole situation, how it affects Gundy, how it affected those players. There's people that want to debate, what actually happened, who was he forced to resign, all of this stuff. And I think that all really doesn't matter, man. It's happened. And as cold-blooded as it sounds like, now it's time to move on.
Yeah. And I know I keep saying this, but I feel like it's the most important thing in the whole situation as far as fans are concerned. And you mentioned all of the players, Adrian Peterson, Joe Mixon, coming out in support of Cale Gundy. You can fully support and stand by Coach Gundy, and I encourage that. But that does not mean you stand against the program and against Coach Venables. You know what I'm saying? And that goes back to the picking sides thing. You can stand next to Coach Gundy and say that, look at the track record, look at the history, look at how loved he is by his players, look how they're coming out around him. You can do that and still stand with the program, stand with Coach Venables, knowing that this is the circumstances that you're dealt with, and this is the consequence of that action. Like, that's it. You do not have to. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And I feel like everyone's kind of getting as emotional it's become. It's like you've got to say, well, I'm with Gundy, against the university, and he gets how this whole thing went down, or I'm with the program. It does not have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way.
That's the truth. Like, both can be true, right? Cale Gundy has been just such a pillar of this program, right? Even going back to when he was playing quarterback in the 90s, right? But you can acknowledge that he is a great football coach, is a great man, is a great recruiter. Like, you can acknowledge all of those things, right? You can talk about the intention of the situation and that he didn't have malice or anything like that. You can acknowledge all of the positive things about Cale Gundy while also acknowledging that he made a horrible mistake and that his resignation was probably what had to happen. That's the consequence of the mistake he made. Those two things, you can view those two things as true. So, yeah, and that's one of the really frustrating parts about this is everything was going so well for Oklahoma football. Right? The positive momentum, not just the recruiting stuff that we've talked a lot about that was rolling, but just how unified the fan base felt. That was it felt special to me. It felt unlike anything I'd experienced in a long, long time for OU fans. And it feels like this is really threatening that sense of unity among the fan base. And my hope, maybe my challenge to OU fans is that we all don't let that happen. I know this whole thing sucks, but we've got to continue to stick together and to support Brent Venables and the program. We still all love Cale Gundy, man. We do. But moving forward, this can't be something that divides this fan base. That's not the type of investment the program needs. Right? The fans have been incredible since Venables was hired. Incredible. We can't let this derail that, man. We just can't.
Well, if there's any positive, which quickly on what you're saying, like I agree, it has the chance to drive a wedge here, but it also has a chance to seriously galvanize the team and the fan base even more, right? So hopefully that's the result as we come out of this thing. The other factor is timing seems horrible, but it's actually like if this situation has to occur, when it occurred is the best time for it to occur, because the team is, in training camp right now, as insulated as they're going to be from the media, from the fan base the entire year with training camp. I mean, you're in that
from
mode.
The student body, right?
From the student body, from just everything. You're in that mode. Plus, you've got to have an interim wide receiver coach. And LaDamian Washington is taking over and ends up getting the entire camp to settle into that role, if you can settle into it whenever it just is thrust upon you like that. So as bad as this whole situation is, it would have been even 100 times worse if it's in the middle of college football, the buzz, you got a game coming up that week. The whole college football world would descend upon Norman, Oklahoma in a very vicious way. So the timing is actually, like, not to say that anything about this is good, but you've got a proper amount of time to recover from it, put it behind you, focus, and hopefully by the time you're actually playing games that matter, you've put it behind you, grown from it, regrouped as a football team, and you're moving on and you're focused.
Yeah, and the challenge for Venables now is to ensure that this team has the type of training camp they have to prepare to, make a run at a Big 12 championship and a possible college football playoff berth. Like that's not going to be easy, but I mean, he's been laying the foundation, with the things that he truly believes in. He's going to continue to operate the same way. And you mentioned there are real football implications here. I know that's not the most important thing, but that's just reality, right? And LaDamian Washington is an inexperienced coach who is now replacing a guy that had, if you count him as a GA, nearly 30 years of coaching experience and coaching experience in some of the best offenses in the history of college football under Kevin Wilson.
Some of the best players in college football at different position groups.
So this is, maybe it feels like a daunting task for LaDamian Washington, but if I'm him, that's an opportunity, man. And I'll tell you this, that wide receiver room, it's LaDamian Washington, and now Matt Wells has slid in there.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about a guy with a lot of experience on the offensive side of the ball, a guy with a lot of experience dealing with different personalities as a head coach, Matt Wells is going to be a big help for LaDainian Washington. And from everything I've been told, LaDainian Washington is crushing it as the wide receivers coach. I mean, all kinds of energy, all kinds of enthusiasm. He has embraced this opportunity that it's unfortunate how it went down, but this is a massive opportunity for his career, right? He's interim. He's got this training camp and likely this whole season to work that interim tag off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
become wide receivers coach. So I think having a guy like Wells being able to, and I'm not trying to make it sound like Matt Wells is doing LaDainian Washington's job. He's not. But having a guy with that amount of experience in the room with you to help, to give advice, like I feel like that's a valuable resource for LaDainian Washington. But it sounds like he's absolutely getting after it in this new role he's got.
And I don't know him, but I am like just thrilled that he's getting this opportunity. When you check out his life story and his path, just amazing stuff. Wide receiver there at Missouri, and I watched a video. It's a YouTube, just kind of special that they did. I think going into his senior year at Missouri on him, just amazing. He went through some serious stuff as just a child, losing both parents, and just him and his brothers trying to fight to make it. And he said because of that, like he had serious like trust issues and didn't trust the guys at the program, and never really thought that people were actually looking out for his best interest. And he took psychology because of that, because he wanted to learn like why he had the mindset that he did, and eventually came around and opened up and realized that there are people out there that are trying to help him. The coaching staff's trying to help him, and once he kind of changed that mentality, he really just, as a person and as a player, took another step in life. It's just a fascinating story. So really cool to see him get this opportunity.
Yeah. And, a guy that played the position, right? So that always helps, right? For
Comes with
whatever reason.
credibility. Like whenever you're thrust into this role, it's really good to have some credibility that you played it and played it at a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, it sounds a little heartless, but now it's time to move forward. It's time to move on, and it's time for this team to get ready to play some football. We love Cale Gundy. I don't think anyone is going to let this. Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be part of his legacy forever, right? But it is it's my hope that people will always acknowledge his contribution to Oklahoma football and appreciate him for it.
It's part of his story here. It's not the only part of his story here. It's just a blip in the the 20 plus year history that he has here. Like I said, I hope and I'm confident that his legacy here will remain intact, and people will still love him as a coach, as a player, an important part of the program.
Yeah, and there is a recruiting element to it, right? Because Cale Gundy was the ace, man.
Yeah,
No one could sell Oklahoma like Cale because he'd been living it for so long. Played there, coached there, multiple coaches, all kinds of success, right? He's seen just about everything there is to see when it comes to Oklahoma football, and OU right now. When you look at the 24/7 Sports Composite, the number 6 recruiting class in the country, and a couple of those guys, Jaquez Petaway, Keon Brown, some really highly ranked wide receivers that are currently committed. We'll see if this has any type of effect on what those young men are going to do when it comes to their college choice. But it does sound like LaDainian Washington has, I mean, it's not like he has been completely uninvolved in recruiting. Like he's a guy that played the position. He can relate to these guys. Now, can he sell OU the way that Gundy did? I guarantee you this, he's going to try.
Yeah.
He's going to try. So I'm interested to see what happens with a couple of those top prospects. But once again, you just gotta have faith in what Venables is doing and how they're operating. So it's about believing in BV and believing in the direction of this program. So once again, this whole thing sucks, man. I'm so tired of talking about it. It's been an emotionally draining week already. I don't know about you, but how many interview requests have you gotten to talk about it? I've just stopped messaging people back.
0.
Damn it, Ted.
No one wants to know what I have to. No one cares what I have to say. But no, I'm totally with you. It's been a like this time of year, stuff like this comes up. Like there's usually it's like an injury or something like this is not one of those things that you say, well, this comes with the territory, right? These are the things that we're here to discuss. Not a good one at all, but like I said before, hopefully, I mean, it's obviously been a big learning experience for everyone involved, fans, staff, players. Hopefully we're able to move on, avoid the fracturing nature of the situation, and everyone continues to stay together, fully resolved, us against the world right now.
Yeah. Okay. So we have recorded our interview with Josh Pate. We just, with the tone that this podcast was going to have to start out with, we're going to save that for Monday's episode. And it's great. He's fantastic. He's the best. But so just so you know, if you were thinking, hey, where's Josh Pate? That's coming Monday. But there is some training camp buzz. And
have we started football? Is that even happening?
Football is being practiced right now. And hey, Thursday is when full pad starts. So we're starting to get into the real stuff. But just having conversations, clearly a bunch about the Cale situation, but there's one name that keeps coming up when I'm having some of these conversations is like, hey, this kid, he's got something. R. Mason Thomas, I guess, just twitchy, man, as a pass rusher. And we've talked a lot about where is the pass rush going to come from this group. And we've talked about Stripling and the gains that Ethan Downs have made. And maybe it comes from the interior with Jalen Redmond, who I'm also told is looking fantastic. But I did not see R. Mason Thomas being one of the names that is flashing at the start of training camp. But I had one person tell me he might be the most natural pass rusher they've got on the squad, Ted. So I was like, look at you go, R. Mason. First of all, awesome name. If that ends up being the case, awesome name for you and I to say on the radio broadcast. But yeah, dude, I'll be fully honest. Did not see that one coming.
Sounds like a high-level attorney or something, doesn't it? It's fantastic name. And at first I'm like, who's that? Didn't realize he was even on the team. But it's these things happen every year. There's a name that pops up and you're like, say that again? Who? Let me go to the roster and check this. I've heard a lot of the same things, and I've heard that honestly both offensive line and defensive line, like as a whole, have played really well so far.
They once the pads went on, I would say, and clearly the O line and D line, big question mark, especially the O line going into camp. It seems like they are, I don't want to say pleasantly surprised because that kind of sounds bad, but it seems like they're feeling maybe better than they thought they would about what it looks like along the line of scrimmage.
Well, think about this. Ethan Downs is defensive end, 270 plus. Reggie Grimes is 280 plus defensive end. Jalen Redmond is 295 in shape. The motor is cooking. And so far, everyone has been just thrilled with the way that his summer went and camp has gone. Isaiah Coe is like 310 plus, strong as hell, playing with really good pad level and technique. Ellison has like totally changed his body, and they're just thrilled with the way that he's played. I mean, name after name after name coming up on the defensive line. They're going to be big. They're going to be physical. They're going to be detailed.
They're not going to be slanting every play.
Not going to be slanting every play. I'm feeling really good. Clayton Smith, edge. Remember him from a year ago? A guy that everyone's like, don't know about his attitude. Put on over 20 pounds since like early spring and winter, and he's playing really well. He was he was the highest rated defensive player that we had in the previous class, I believe, or one of the highest. And just a bunch of guys on that defensive line and edge that have really impressed so far.
Yeah, and that's huge. Now, I think it's important. We've got to be reasonable here. I think we got a little too excited last season about this time, right? With everything we were being told about the defensive line. Now, I think you and we both believe in this new scheme more than we believe in the last one. But I want people to be excited, but I also want us to take a step back and say, okay, this is all sounding great, but what is reasonable when it comes to expectations? So the one thing I will say, when that depth chart comes out, I'm going to be smiling this time instead of going, every time they'd put out the depth chart, Ted, I'd text you and say, what?
We're too small.
We're too small. We're too light along the defensive line.
Anytime we're looking at film, you're like, look how skinny his ass is. That's not good.
I don't want skinny asses. Skinny asses are not good along the defensive line. They're not good. And now it seems like there's going to be some bubble booties along that D line. And that's what we need. There's some size, some mass. And I trust Todd Bates. I trust Miguel Chavis to get those guys coached up within that system. The Venables and Roof are running. So just like you, I'm very excited about what I'm hearing about the defensive front and the offensive front, honestly, but especially the defensive front. But I'm going to remain calm, not going to freak out. I'm going to remain calm. I'm excited to see it. I'll say that. I'm very excited to see what it looks like.
There's one more thing that has me, well, there's several things defensively that have me excited. All right, we just talked about the size of the defensive line, right? Hey, there's a chance that on the second level, the inside backer spot is going to be, it's going to be interesting because they're getting the full wrath right now. Okay. They are getting the full wrath of Venables. So that group is probably going to be, I think they're going to be fine, but the narrative is always going to be coming out that they are way behind the eight ball, right? Like they need to get better fast. And that's you're going to hear that everywhere, but probably specifically that group. But I mean, there's a chance that you go Stutzman, maybe Agwebu in some schemes where those guys are possibly your inside backer. So you're talking about 6'3", 240, 6'4.5", almost 6'5", 245. Aguebu's dropped some weight and is moving really good. And then nickel, you may have a guy there that's 6'3", 215 or so pounds. If he keeps playing well. Justin Harrington having himself a camp so far, had himself a summer, has embraced this staff, strength and conditioning system. Everything that he has done since he came back on board has been, who is this guy? Totally locked in. I hope he continues to climb, because if he can play that nickel spot, I'm just throwing this. I'm not saying like he's going to become this, but like that is the Isaiah Simmons body type. And that is where they played him a lot, some of those positions. So that right there has me really excited. I've said it for a long time. That is the key to really unlocking a defense, is that position. If you have a stud at that spot, it is an absolute game changer.
Yeah. I'm going to not get too excited, but big humans on the field, Ted.
That's right.
Big, large, long humans. I love it. All right. Now for Call Your Shot, we asked you guys how it has felt the last couple of days being an OU fan. And we went, in depth clearly about the Cale Gundy situation. So Ted, I'm just going to read these and then we'll move on to birthday shout outs.
Okay.
I thought this one from Jody Manning was good. Said, we were so close to avoiding that thing, which seems to happen almost every summer. This one is probably the most surprising / disappointing. And then Spencer Steele, I think, summed it up well. Said, a bummer. Hate to see a mistake from someone that has given so much to the program over so many years tarnish his legacy. There are no winners in this situation. Feel for everyone involved. I think that's a great way of putting it.
Yep. Well said. Yep. Totally.
All
agree.
right. Birthday shout outs. Happy 4th birthday to Bo Charles Claudin.
Happy 7th birthday to Sylvie Rose. Oh, to Sylvie Rose Daughtry.
What a name. Happy 27th birthday to Nick Hines.
Happy 27th birthday to Blaine McCurdy.
Happy 32nd birthday to Jake Reed.
Happy 34th birthday to Zach Patillo.
Patillo?
Patillo. Okay, I see. Zach Patillo. Did he put a pronunciation in there?
He did. Yeah.
That is frowned upon.
It is frowned upon. We like to look stupid. We do. Yes. We want the challenge, but we appreciate you. Happy 46th birthday to Debo Langan.
Happy 65th birthday to Toby Perry.
Happy 69th. Nice. Happy 69th birthday to Gerald Rohde.
Happy 74th birthday to John Papadotry.
And congratulations to Reese and Morgan Ritter on the birth of Case Ritter.
One more edition.
Ooh, late edition.
Very special edition. Birthday shout out to my beautiful, lovely, lovely wife, who I love more than anything in this entire world. Happy birthday, Aaron Lehman.
Wow. Look at you go. Mm-hmm. Proud of you. I'm glad you remembered.
She remembered.
There you go. All right. Let's get to the National College Football Roundup. But first, the only place to stop when you're road tripping is Love's Travel Stops. Love's has over 600 locations in 41 states, offering 24-hour access to clean and safe places. Whatever your road trip needs are, Love's has it. Fuel, fresh food, all the snacks and drinks, including, yes, my favorite, Java Amore. That coffee is fantastic. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones. They've expanded their mobile to-go zone so you can grab any of that stuff there. Make sure you download the Love's Connect app for exclusive offers from today's most popular brands. The Love's Connect app also includes a route planner and store locator. When you see that red neon heart on the highway, stop in and say hi at Love's Travel Stops. For a full list of what Loves has to offer, visit loves.com.
Opolis Clothing is the exclusive home for all of our Oklahoma Breakdown merchandise. If you want to live your life in buttery soft comfort, go to opolisclothing.com. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off your entire order. You still get a discount on all of the OU and OKC Thunder gear as well. It's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
And make sure you send your kids to Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School. Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School has a long tradition of educational excellence. With a 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, no student is overlooked. Bishop McGinnis's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. There are numerous clubs and organizations for students to join. And as a proud member of the OSSAA, there are 14 sports offered. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available. All right, National College Football Roundup. Really unfortunate news coming out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Wake Forest has announced that star quarterback Sam Hartman will be sidelined indefinitely due to a non-football related medical condition. Remember, Wake Forest went 11-3 last year, best season in the history of the school, and Hartman and that offense were a huge reason why. Man, it sounds like cancer, right? There hasn't been any more details as we're recording now. I'm sure more will come out, but just the way that reads, it sounds like he's gonna have to go through cancer treatment, or at least that's how I interpreted it. Which, godly, man, what a tough break for Hartman, and what a tough break for that football team.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't know what it is. Hopefully it's something that he can make a full recovery from, come back quickly. Maybe it's something that they can get addressed really, really fast. I don't know. I know that it's frustrating for him and his teammates and the staff and the fan base, but ultimately that is the football part is secondary. You just hope the young man is healthy and able to bounce back from whatever it is.
Yeah, and remember, he's the face of Wake Forest football.
Absolute stud.
3-year starter, put up massive numbers last year. Over 4,000 yards passing. He accounted for 50 total touchdowns last season. And just from a football perspective, Wake Forest, it's unlikely their backup is at a similar level, right? When you think about the depth of things, that's a big loss for Dave Clawson and that football team. My goodness.
Yeah. And, timing is tough. But again, at least you get a training camp for whoever it is that's going to step into that role to try and get brought up to as close of a level as they can to where Hartman was. But just brutal stuff. Hate that for everyone.
Yeah, he'll be replaced by fourth-year sophomore Michael Kern, who has appeared in 3 games, completing 2 of 5 passes for 67 yards.
Fourth-year sophomore?
COVID,
wow.
Man. That COVID year.
He's gonna be you're gonna be a 30-year-old man as a senior out there.
Yeah. So some unfortunate news for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. That's a big blow, and unfortunate news for college football fans, because Hartman, man, kid's fun to watch. And that offense is fun to watch. So prayers and thoughts, whatever you want to send, positive vibes, send them all Sam Hartman's way. Okay, let's talk coaches poll. USA Today coaches poll is out. I don't think anyone has. Do you have any issues with the top 3? Alabama at 1, Ohio State at 2, Georgia at 3?
Nope. And you can say the top. I don't have any issues with really the top 5. I think the top 5 is pretty locked in about where it should be.
Yeah, Clemson at 4, Notre Dame at 5. And some people may say, really, Clemson, with what they did last year? Now, remember, they kind of came on strong, figured some things out as the year went on.
Decimated by injury.
Yeah, and DJ Uiagalelei, he just was not good. last year. Now, Dabo has really defended him publicly, and we'll see what it looks like at the quarterback for his position for that. They got Klubnik if Uiagalelei continues to struggle. But when you see Clemson at 4, I saw it and I was like, huh. And then I looked below him and I was like, who would I take instead of them at 4? And I didn't really have any answers. So I was okay with that. And then Notre Dame, ton back on both sides of the football. And I think a lot of people believe in Marcus Freeman taking over. So you've got Notre Dame at 5, Michigan at 6, Texas A&M at 7, Utah at 8, the Oklahoma Sooners checking in at 9 as the first Big 12 team in the rankings, and then Baylor at 10, Oklahoma State at 11. So when you look at those 11, Ted, does anything really stand out to you?
Well, yeah, I would pluck Texas A&M out of that top 11. I wouldn't necessarily pluck Michigan out of the top 11, but let's say that I would rearrange that and probably have Michigan back at like I put them at number 10. Again, A&M is out. And then between Utah, Oklahoma, Baylor, and Oklahoma State, I think that's a pretty good group, and you can make arguments to rearrange them in pretty much any order.
Yeah, I saw that cluster of Big 12 teams at 9, 10, and 11, and I thought it was basically these coaches saying, yeah, we got a lot of respect for these 3 Big 12 teams. We just don't know which one's going to be the best one. So we're just going to lump them all together. We're going to default to Oklahoma, which I think is how I view it as well. People ask me, why am I picking OU to win the Big 12? I say, well, history.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done it half the time. So I think a lot of these coaches, not only they have a ton of respect for Venables, but they also acknowledge the level of success that OU's had over the last couple of decades. But all 3 of those teams, a lot of change, a lot of newness, the most newness in Norman for sure. But I think that's about right for OU, Baylor, and Oklahoma State, even with all the guys they're having to replace on both sides of the ball. Some other interesting teams to note where they're ranked. USC checking in at 15, and Texas checking in at 18. And the most interesting part about the entire coaches poll, Texas got a first place vote. Now, Bama got 54, Ohio State got 5, Georgia got 6. But what of the 66 coaches or whoever fills out the poll for them, I thought it was hilarious, honestly, but people were all upset. Like, how could you vote Texas number 1? I think that's a valid question, but is some coach trolling all of us, or did they just think it'd be funny? I don't know. It wasn't an accident. I don't know, but it was hilarious seeing that one all the way down at Texas's name at 18. It gave me a good chuckle.
Yeah, it was good. It's one of 2 coaches. It's either Leipold at Kansas, so they can beat the number 1 team in the country, right? Or I think it's Nick Saban.
Okay, I like that. What, to use it as fuel for week 2?
Absolutely.
That would be very Saban-ish.
Yeah. Yeah. He probably didn't think, well, no, he probably knew he was going to be the only one, but yeah. Hey guys, look at this. Someone out there thinks they're the best team in the country. And these are coaches. No, I don't know. It's a troll job or something. I don't know, but I could see Nick Saban doing it.
You want to know my theory? And some OU fans may not like this, but is it possible that it was a peace offering to OU fans from Lincoln Riley?
Maybe.
Like, hey guys, I
Maybe.
know things aren't good right now between us. I'm gonna give you this so you can put all the stats about how bad Texas has been over the last decade. You can make fun of them like, hey, here you go. It's a peace offering.
Yeah.
That was my initial thought when I saw it. I was like, I wonder if it was Lincoln.
Let me just set this on the tee for you real quick.
Yeah.
Now go through the first place votes again. 54 for Alabama.
Ohio State with 5, Georgia with 6, and Texas got 1 first place vote.
So there was only 12 coaches that did not vote for Alabama at first. And
Correct.
we know for a fact that Nick Saban did not vote his own team first place, right?
I don't think you can.
Oh, you can't?
I I don't know. I would assume you can't vote for your own team in any way, right? That would make the most sense, right? But I don't know. I don't know the rules. I've never been one of the 66 Power 5 head coaches and had to fill out this ballot. Never have not had that experience personally.
Well, I don't know. It's got to be Saban, but maybe you're right. The Lincoln Riley theory is a good one.
I like it.
It's a good one.
That wouldn't that be nice? Like that's
Are we leaving out Venables? Could it have been Venables?
that'd be funny. Couldn't you see him filling it out and going
Right. I'm surprised like there's not votes like just totally all over the place. You know?
Yeah, I think
everyone's rival's been voted number 1 in the country.
Yeah. Bama having the 54, man. And I know Bryce Young said it at SEC Media Days, like it's a failure when they don't win the national championship. But man, everyone, myself included, likes Bama going into the year. So those are some high expectations. I know they're used to it, but it's basically, hey, go undefeated, win the national championship, or else you kind of fell short. That's a lot, even for those guys at Bama. So
we've barely dipped our toe into training camp, and Nick Saban has already thrown out the rat poison stuff, which is not a good sign for the rest of college football.
Yeah, well, it didn't help things when he called last season a rebuilding year when they won the SEC and played for the national title. So he's had his part in that as well. All right, the other big piece of news in college football, Big Ten. I guess they technically haven't finalized it, but it seems like everything is in place and will be finalized soon. But the Big Ten's new media rights deal is going to be worth over $1 billion annually. Fox will remain their main media partner, but they will be adding packages with CBS and NBC. Sounds like CBS and NBC will be paying in the $350 million per year range for their packages with the Big Ten. And the Big Ten will be ending a 40-year partnership with ESPN. Ultimately, ESPN said no thanks to the Big Ten's final offer of 7 years, $380 million per year, where they only would have had 13 or 14 Big Ten games, and those would have been the second or sometimes even the third best Big Ten game of the week. So, man, it feels like we've been headed towards the divide in college football of the SEC and ESPN on one side and the Big Ten and Fox on the other. And while you got some other players in CBS and NBC in this Big Ten deal, it's pretty much here, man. We're at that point.
This is fascinating to me. I'm more interested in like who's going to end up being the loser in this thing. And it's going to be hard to say it's the Big Ten just because of financially the amount of money that's going to be coming in for them. I think this is a home run deal for them, obviously. But I mean, as good as Fox is and as good as their coverage has become, like the Big Noon stuff is awesome. But ESPN, like it or not, still is driving the bus when it comes to college football. And if they're not covering any of your games, I they're not just going to skip over the Big Ten, obviously, but they are not going to be at the top of the broadcast. They are not going to be the games that they're going to want to cover the most. Why? Because it's a ratings deal.
Absolutely.
They are going to push the teams in the games that they are going to cover. And the Big Ten is not going to be in any of that. I'm anxious to see how that goes for like narratives. Like if you don't think ESPN pushes narratives in college football, you need to wake up and start paying attention to how Texas and now USC get treated in the off seasons. Why? Because those are flagships that draw a ton of attention. Like USC, like ESPN has made it a priority to push USC. They want that West Coast fan base back. So they've been shoving USC down everyone's throat. That's going to continue, and they're going to want people watching those games, not Big Ten. So the narrative will shift.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And it's interesting because ESPN's still the biggest player in college football, like you're saying. I can't imagine they're going to send college game day to a Big Ten game, to a Big Ten campus, right? I mean, I don't want to call it a network war. It's just business, right? Why would they do that? Now, they've done it in the past, but now when the divide is so clear, why would they do that? I mean, there is a business component to this thing. They're going to push the games that are going to be on the ESPN family of networks. And you look at it, you mentioned who's going to be the loser in this. It seems like the Pac-12 and the Big 12 are both winners in this situation.
Totally agree.
Because ESPN, they're not going to have any of the Big Ten. They're going to want the Pac-12 for that late window, right? They're going to want Pac-12 after dark. That's valuable. It would make, for me, when I saw this initially, right, because big noon kickoff is going to be the biggest Big Ten game of the week. If I was ESPN, I would put the biggest Big 12 game of the week up against that game. Right? 11 a.m. Hey, let's get our deal signed with the Big 12. We'll go head to head. They can't just let Fox own that time slot.
Right.
And with what they've got for the 2:30 and the prime time slots with the SEC stuff and ESPN's new deal with the SEC, right? They're probably feeling pretty good about going head to head with the Big Ten in those time slots. So if I'm them, I lock the Big 12 in and I say, hey, we're going to play the best Big 12 game at 11 a.m. Central and go head to head with Fox Big Noon kickoff. But yeah. I will say, Kevin Warren, man, the guy's reputation, it's bounced back. It's bounced back since 2020. And he came from the NFL. Remember, he was the COO of the Minnesota Vikings. And when you now look at how this Big Ten TV schedule is going to look, it looks an awful lot like the NFL model, right? You're going to have the best game at 11 a.m. Central for Fox Big Noon kickoff. That'll take you into the Big Ten matchup at 2:30 on CBS. We'll see if they keep the jingle or not. But then that game's going to lead in to the Big Ten's night matchup on NBC. So you've got 3 windows, 3 different networks, all of them paying you a boatload of money. He grabbed USC and UCLA. They'll be added into this in 2024. Kevin Warren, man, that is a bounce back if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I'm interested in the other, like the Pac-12 and the Big 12 ESPN thing for, obviously ESPN is going to pay, is they didn't pay the 380 million. So you got to imagine that they're ready to invest that elsewhere. And I think it's in their best interest to pay maybe a higher dollar amount than you typically would. Why? Because you want to help elevate those programs, right? But you have a vested interest in those programs having more money, having more, being able to chip away in recruiting and in facilities. Like, you want to help all of them get better. Like, you want to invest those monies in those programs getting better. And, without OU and Texas in the Big 12 and without USC, UCLA in the Pac 12, like, they have the negotiating power to really come in and offer some low dollar deals. But I don't know that it's necessarily in their best interest to do that, to try and lowball it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you want the programs that are going to be playing on your network to be relevant in the national conversation of college football. Mm-hmm. Now, they've got the SEC, so they're going to be relevant, right? They know that. But yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Hey, let's not try to lowball them. Let's give the Big 10 or the Big 12 and the Pac 12 a fair deal to where they're bringing in enough revenue to have the resources to compete. Now, they're not going to be on the same level, but
it's like you're subsidizing them. You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah.
like you're trying to get that part of the industry up and running and competitive to where they can compete in that market.
And if you're one of the programs, like if you're Brett Yormark in the Big 12, you're going, hey, help me help you.
That's right.
Help me help you. So, yeah, we'll see what those Pac-12 and Big 12 media rights deals ended up looking like. We'll see what role ESPN has in that. But that is some big news and big money for the Big 10. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. But first,
it's time to get back out on the golf course, people, and there's nothing better to drink on the course than the #1 seltzer in golf, Clubby Seltzers. Clubby Seltzers is an Oklahoma company that's already winning national awards because their product is delicious. Tastes exactly like a club special, but it's a seltzer. They're not just for the golf course either. They're perfect to drink by the pool, after mowing the lawn, whatever. If you haven't tried Clubby Seltzers yet, go grab some. You won't regret it. The variety pack is out. Find a place near you that has Clubbies. Visit clubbyseltzers.com.
And attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Insurica's clients become best-in-class businesses by working with Insurica's team of advisors to manage risk. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Best-in-class businesses win by avoiding loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com.
You looking to buy or sell a house in the Oklahoma City metro area? Use the Ronaldo Cloud Group. Stacia Ronaldo and Maddie Cloud are with Sage Sotheby's International Realty. They believe in prompt communication, an honest relationship, and luxury service. And that's exactly what they gave Gabe. Sold a house for Gabe. They found a house for Gabe's brother. They also found a house for Lane Johnson. We can't recommend them enough. You can reach them by calling or texting Stacia at 918-671-6450, or you can contact them on Instagram at @soldbystacia and @soldbymaddie_.
As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
I had to go with Serena Williams. Man, what a legacy, what a history. 23 Grand Slam titles. I think without a doubt, pretty much unanimously has to be viewed as the most powerful, the most athletic, the most dominating force in women's tennis history. And you can make the argument in sports history, right? Like across almost every different sport, have we seen one individual that was this powerful, this dominating individually for so long, and doing it through so many different things, a lot of different barriers, a lot of different, just situations that she personally fought through. 41, shutting it down after this year's U.S. Open.
Yeah, said she doesn't like the word retirement. Her career is evolving away from tennis. I loved how she put it. She not only is she arguably the most dominant female athlete ever, she is in the conversation for most dominant athlete ever.
Yep.
And the you mentioned the singles grand slams. Don't forget about the doubles ones. Those are important too. I think
no doubt.
There's like 15 more of those or something like that, 14 or 15. So just incredible accomplishments on the court, but and it's similar. I think it's similar to Tiger Woods. Not his he clearly had just a massive effect on the game of golf, but I think both Tiger and Serena, and I don't know if there's a way to measure it, but the impact on minority involvement in the sport, right? Inspiring, Black girls to play tennis. I don't know how you can even measure the impact she had, but I know it was significant. Obviously, clearly with what Venus and her did, but Serena in particular. So while I think the legacy on the court is obviously it stacks up to any legacy out there when it comes to sports, I think her impact on the culture of tennis and what participation in tennis looks like, I think that's massive, and really the thing that is going to be the lasting, the most important lasting piece of her legacy.
I hope she pulls it off this last.
That'd be sweet, man.
What the record's 24, right?
Yeah.
So to tie that, which in my opinion, she's already the GOAT, but that would be one really cool way to have that curtain call.
Yeah. All right. Who is your loser of the week?
I had to go with Chris Sale with the Red Sox. Just amazing. So the guy, he's already on the 15-day injured list after fractured his pinky, but he now has fractured his right wrist in a bicycle accident. He returned home from a throwing session Saturday and rode his bike to grab lunch near his house when he hit something going down a hill, flew off his bike, fractures his wrist. Now, I say he's the loser of the week because he missed all of 2020 and a lot of the 2021 seasons recovering from Tommy John surgery that he had in March of 2020. He's made 14 starts through the regular season and postseason across the last 3 seasons, which are the first 3 seasons of his 5-year extension that he signed. So he's totaled 57 and a third innings over those 14 starts. So here's the thing. I say he's the loser because he just can't kick the injury bug. But it's hard. It was hard to call him a loser because, like I said, he's in the 3rd year of a $145 million extension, and he's only thrown 57 and a third innings. That works out to $1.5 million per inning so far that he's made.
Sign me up for that, man.
Which, he's a winner in that department, but hopefully he can get healthy and, have some consistency.
Just don't ride a bike. If you're a professional athlete, don't ride a bike. Ride in a car.
We were talking about this before we came on. Like in the NFL, if you wreck your bicycle riding to grab lunch after practice, sorry, but that's not going to be covered under your contract.
Non-football injury list for you.
That's right, which, receives no money.
Yeah. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs, checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all, whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone. Everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. First Fidelity Bank provides free ATMs worldwide, making banking convenient wherever you are. They also give back to the community. FFB donates a total of more than $500,000 to local charities and educational foundations. Make your life easier and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information.
And if you're a whiskey or bourbon drinker, stop what you're doing. Head to your favorite liquor store and buy some Balcones products. You got to grab some of Balcones Lineage Single Malt Whiskey. It was just voted one of the top 20 whiskeys in the world by Whiskey Advocate, and you'll be shocked by how affordable it is. Also, you got to snag some of Balcones Baby Blue Corn Whiskey.
It's made from blue corn. That's the fancy corn.
And that is why it has won more than 25 awards. Last but certainly not least, you got to buy some of Balcones Pot Still Bourbon. Its big flavors make it the perfect bourbon to drink year-round. Remember, in 2012, Balcones Single Malt won the Best in Glass competition, beating brands like Johnnie Walker and Macallan. This stuff is the real deal, people. If you love great whiskey and bourbon at a great price, then Balcones products are the only way to go. The whiskey may be made in Texas, but the owners are from Oklahoma. To find a liquor store that has it, visit balconesdistilling.com. All right, for my winner of the week, thought about going with Hard Knocks, Dan Campbell, whatever. Watched it last night. Him talking about dragging teams into the deep water and drowning them. Incredible. Him saying there's no light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to training camp. Incredible. But the best quote of the night, and Aiden Hutchinson singing Billie Jean was fantastic, right? Especially didn't start well. He regrouped and crushed it. Very proud of that guy. But the quote from Dan Campbell, quote of the night from Hard Knocks. It doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass. I mean, just an all-time line, and Hard Knocks is back, Ted. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I didn't watch it because I had a lot going on. I want to be able to sit down and really absorb it. I love Dan Campbell. Absolutely love the guy. We were in Detroit together, and the light at the end of the tunnel, that is so funny. I feel like he stole that from Rod Marinelli whenever we were in Detroit together, because Rod Marinelli, he made it a point, and this is back before any of the two-a-day rules or anything like that. He made it a point to make training camp the most miserable experience ever. Every single morning, he started off with a quick video of, what's the movie? Junction Boys, of the guys like running and jumping the fence to leave camp, to get out of camp and quit. He's like, don't jump the fence. Don't jump the fence. And it's so funny thinking about that. And the light at the end of the tunnel quote is just hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. But it's going to be an awesome season of Hard Knocks. I'm excited. But my winner of the week, Tulsa Little League baseball player Isaiah Jarvis, in just a touching sports moment. Now, I wish the Tulsa Little League squad would have won. I wish they would have beaten Pearland. That would have made the story even better. But remember, sometimes it's not just about winning and losing. And they lost 9-4, but Zay Jarvis takes a pitch straight to the head, right? Hits him right there in the ear protector on his helmet. The ball just got away from the pitcher and smoked Jarvis right in the dome. And went down, was able to collect himself, go to first base. And that happened to me as a kid, as a pitcher, hit a kid in the head. It rattles you, man. And clearly the kid from Pearland was emotional, was shaken up, crying. And to see a kid that young walk over and give that kid a hug, tell him he was doing great, man, that's sports, man, right? I mean, sports.
Yeah, it was great. It was great, and loved that it was an Oklahoma kid, which anyone who knows me, listens to the show, I always say Oklahoma is the center of the sports world. It always is. Here's another example of that. Fantastic. But here's the thing. You still got to throw at the next batter in the next inning, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to retaliate. No,
still got to
that's
retaliate.
awful.
You
We're
think that's
worst.
what he said? He was packing him on the back. Hey, man, it's okay. No, we're still going to throw at you guys next inning. But
it's like you realize when you step in that box, it's coming right at your chin, right?
Fair warning.
Just letting you know. It's fair. But it's been a long week, man. Long weekend, long week. I feel like we all needed that. You know?
Yeah.
I wish they would have won, but I felt like we all needed to see that.
Very, very cool. Great situation. The one funny part about that was I love the kid that was on second base that as soon as his buddy got hit in the head with the ball was like, yes, because he's going to first base.
He's on. Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's good. Just if you haven't seen it, go find it on the internet. It's everywhere. Yeah. Isaiah Jarvis. That was really cool. All right. For my loser of the week, thought about going with the Chicago Bears. The Roquan Smith situation does not seem good. This is a guy that, remember he was on that Georgia defense when OU played him in the Rose Bowl. And when we were preparing, when you were preparing for that game, you're texting me going, this guy is insane. And he's an all-pro. He's arguably the Bears' best player on the entire roster. And he's requested a trade. He says the new front office doesn't value him. Not pleased at all with how his contract extension negotiation has gone. And remember, he is conducting his own negotiations. He doesn't have an agent. And I saw Ian Rappaport on NFL Network said the Bears, I guess, tried to put a de-escalator clause in the contract, tried to backload the deal. And when you read those things and hear those things, it feels like they're trying to take advantage of the best player on their roster not having an agent. And Roquan Smith, clearly, I mean, he took it personally.
Right. Well, you've got to be careful in those situations. Like, you definitely don't want to try and pull a fast one on someone, right? Not a good way to operate. Gives you a bad rap out there whenever it comes to other free agents come to your space. If you're a GM, got to be careful there, especially whenever it's a player like this. Like, trust me, you don't want to just flat out give everyone everything that they want, but sometimes you got to massage the deal a little bit because you don't want your best player on the team saying, you know what, screw you guys, I want to trade, I'm out of here, I'm not signing with you.
Yeah, Ryan Pace, not a great look as the new GM. You pay your best players. You do it. That's how the league works. So the fact that, and anyone that doesn't know what a de-escalator clause is, basically that means the value, they want to put something in there that can drop the value of the contract if certain things happen or don't happen. Yep. Remember, this is the best player on their entire football team. I mean, no one does that.
Mm-mm.
So I couldn't believe it, and it just seems like that has not been handled properly by the new regime. And Eberflus, he's a defensive guy in the position that, like, that's where Darius Leonard, or he's going by Shaquille now. Shaquille Leonard played that position in that Colts defense. Like, it is a pivotal position that Roquan Smith. It's basically the position that drives that defense. So Eberflus is probably sitting there going, what the hell, guys? What are we doing?
Right. And that's the thing is you can't blame him. I don't know how the Bears work, but he may be like totally insulated from that decision and how all that stuff gets, decided upon. But I love that Roquan Smith is representing himself. I wish I would have. Just because you're representing yourself doesn't mean that you don't have one or a team of contract lawyers absolutely dicing through everything, explaining to you what every little aspect of that contract means, what they're trying to put in there. You just don't have to pay as big of a fee, right? And you can sit in there in the negotiations, and a lot of times it's kind of handled as you're almost a third party to the thing. Like all of the talking about you and your future is going on over there, and you're not even in the room. So I like it.
Yeah. Also thought about going with Taylor Gooch, Matt Jones, and Hudson Swafford, right? Live Golf guys that they were trying to, they basically filed a temporary restraining order that would allow them to play in the FedEx Cup playoffs there with the PGA Tour. And a judge basically said, you guys did this to yourselves. Live Golf is paying you a ton of money. So no, which, all right, we'll see what type of impact that has on the dynamics between the PGA Tour and Live Golf moving forward. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Those guys can't be thrilled about that.
No, they can't, and I don't think it's the end of the legal issues between the two. But I thought the ruling was really weird. It's almost like, well, you guys are making enough money at Live Golf, like they're paying you a substantial amount, so you're not really. This hasn't hurt you, which to me, like, that seems like a really weird way to enforce the law.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think this is the end of this situation. So we'll see. I'm sure an appeal is coming, but my loser of the week, the Jets, Zach Wilson. I'm not sure which one you would go with, but the news that Mekhi Becton, their just mountain of a man offensive tackle, has fractured his kneecap and most likely will miss the whole season. That's a big blow for that offense and a big blow for that team. Now they've got a guy that's played a lot as their, backup swing tackle in Connor McDermott, and I saw that Dwayne Brown visited New York. He's just not the player he used to be, right? When he was at the peak of his powers in Seattle. But this is now 2 knee injuries, I believe, to the same knee for Becton, even though I guess they're saying they're not related. But this is a guy you took in the first round a couple years ago. He's a big man. Has now had a couple of surgeries. Just, you got to be worried about him, that knee moving forward. This is not what the Jets needed.
Mm-mm. I know very little about a fractured kneecap. Now, is that like a quad tendon or patella tendon issue?
No, it's like the actual bone. So your actual patella. So your actual kneecap. He fractured his actual patella. So there's the patella.
I'm saying, like, how does that help though? Or how does that happen? Is that an impact trauma, or that's what I'm wondering, if it's like because of the quad and patella tendons right there coming over the top of it, like if that's like a separating issue. I don't know anything about it.
Any doctors out there, let us know. Let us know how what the most common way to fracture your patella. But yeah, it doesn't sound good, man. And when you think about all the resources, because the new front office of the Jets and Robert Saleh, it seems like they've been doing things the right way, right? And this is just, I don't want to make it sound like their season is just hopeless now, but when this guy is healthy, he's a monster, man. And to lose a guy that has that type of talent, that's going to be protecting your quarterback that you're hoping makes a jump in year 2. It's a big blow to that football team.
Yeah, hopefully they bounce back from it. Zach Wilson could use some good news and some good offensive line play around him to try and get that offense rolling.
Yeah. All right. Episode 239 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Monday. Josh Pate, the hottest man in college football media, will join us. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 3 to 6 on 94.7 The Ref. You can hear me from 3 to 5 on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Please subscribe to strengtheningok.com. We hope you all have a great week. Have an rest of your week. Have an awesome weekend. And until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.